Oh, yay. Here we are for another Venus Fridays. And so many things, so many good things. I mean, this has just been so fun to do. Sheridan, thank you for doing this with me. I love it. Um, what we're going to talk about in this time is Venus going through the second gate associated with the sixth chakra or the third eye chakra. And that's amazing. All the things around that we'll talk about in a moment. But prior to that, we've got Sun conjunct Uranus at, at the very late degrees of Taurus. And this is the last time the Sun is going to conjunct Uranus in Taurus for 80 some years. I mean, it's usually in a sign for about 7 years. Taurus goes through, or Uranus goes through a sign 7 years. It changes signs. And so it's been in Taurus for a while, and it's going into Gemini for the first time in July of this year, 2025. And then it'll come back into Taurus and then it'll go back, but it won't conjunct the sun again in Taurus. So it'll be close. It'll be the very early degrees next year, but it's also very near the Pleiades. So this is the sun conjunction to Uranus, very near the Pleiades. We won't see that because the sun's there, and we wouldn't see Uranus anyway because it's beyond our vision. But to have this illuminated, to have Uranus with the source of light and life for our planet, the sun, and to be seeding new energy, like a new moon point with the Pleiades. And it'll do it again next year too, but by then it'll be in Gemini. So this is our last shot at the Taurian. How are we seeding the new Earth? What's needs to break down so we can break through into a new way of being? What of the old constructs are keeping us from being able to move into the new territory? And when those things are falling apart, it can be scary as hell. Very much so. I remember being in a Uranus cycle. I was in my early 30s, and I found something out that absolutely, oh, I guess, yeah, it was in my early 30s, that I felt like I was in a free fall, that everything I knew in my world was just spinning. And that can be what it feels like right now. Honestly, that's what it feels like right now. And on the other side, at the time, I thought, this is it. Life is over. I'm done. And but then it got better than I could have imagined it to be. So we may be feeling like we're in a free fall, and maybe when we land and we don't crash land necessarily, hopefully we are not crash landing, it'll be better than we can imagine.
I love that. And I think of Uranus as being so much about the place that we like connect into that universal awareness and understanding, like expanding our horizons. And I love that that's with the sun, like you said, the source of life for us here on the earth and our whole solar system. And then also with the Pleiades, right? So expanding that awareness, right, of shining our light with that feminine infusion as well, which I think is so, we keep seeing, I think, so much of that's the energy that's trying to emerge, right? In so many ways, is like bringing the masculine and the feminine back into greater balance that serves all of us, right? We need her back, right? It's like, we need
And
that.
in an embodied sense, it's Taurus for heaven's sake. It's like,
Yeah.
how are we embodying pleasure and beauty and sensuality and the ability to be present in the moment and not like, either in the past or in the future or worried about something that happened or hasn't happened or whatever those things are. But to stay in that present moment and just trust that what's unfolding is what's happening for us, and it's happening in the best ways possible. And it's not always easy to do that. I
Yeah.
definitely had my moments of terror, thinking it's all over and it's not, but and maybe many people are feeling that way now. And if we can just remember that, if we can stay present to what's happening and to stay in the moment. And I feel like that's one of Taurus's big gifts to us, is to help us be present in the moment. And I have a lot of fire, so I tend to be several moments into the future often. My husband's always accusing me of that. Like I move really fast. He's very Taurus, Moon and Mars and Taurus, so he's very good at being present. And I'm learning how to.
I love that you just brought that up. It feels like another like mic drop moment, of like, again, we could end the video right there. And that's all the nugget that we needed of just like being present and trusting and being present and trusting and not future tripping about what does this mean and what will happen. And right, because we're not living in the future moment. We're living in this moment now. So I really appreciate that you brought that up. Like, be present, trust. That would be the two takeaways I would invite you to take from this one video.
Right. And a few days later, then the sun will move into Gemini. So, of course, still with the Pleiades, very close to the Pleiades at that time. And then and for some people, they experience at certain latitudes down in Chichen Itza, and the pyramid where Kukulkan is, this the days of no shadows. So the sun is directly overhead. This also happens in Hawaii and different places in the certain latitudes between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn on planet Earth, where there'll be certain days where the sun is directly overhead and no shadows are cast. So they call it the days of no shadows. And for people that live in those places on the planet, it's important because they don't see the seasonal shifts that we do, those of us who live further north or south of those points. And so when the sun is directly overhead, it was a big deal for them, and they did big ceremonies around that, and actually had zenith, they call them zenith tubes. So they were like these tubes that would go down into the earth into a cave. And the only time that that cave would light up is when the sun was directly overhead. So they knew enough to know how to create that so they could light up those caves at those particular times, and it usually would happen twice a year. So so we have that happening, reminding us that that there's times when the light can be directly infused into our being, directly from overhead. And then we'll be moving into the Venus, the second Venus moon gate.
Yes, but one thing just before we jump into that is that we have that last quarter moon in
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Aquarius that same day that the sun is entering into Gemini, right? So they meet and then, they meet in a square. And so we have that, and it's another one of those, like I said, the check-in points of what's going on, a way to tune in, connect in. And then the sun enters Gemini. And so then it's like, they're sign wise, not degrees, but sign wise, they're both in these air signs. The moon will be moving quickly, but it's just, I think that's a really interesting, just kind of air connection point there as well.
Yeah, and if we think about that last quarter moon at the 29 degrees Aquarius point, the anaretic degree, the final degree of all of that, and of course Pluto's moving through Aquarius right now, so it really does illuminate the whole mysteries. And we talked about Uranus being most like Aquarius, expansion of the mind and consciousness and how we see things and being able to be on the cutting edge of new ideas and new ways of doing things. But first we have to let go of what might be in the way of that.
Uh,
And a
and
lot
the
of,
last, sorry.
oh, go ahead, you go ahead.
Just the last quarter moon in April was in Aquarius as well. So we're getting like two last quarter moons in Aquarius before we move on. But go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I love that because I feel like that because that first last quarter moon,
Yeah.
April, was in the early degrees of Aquarius with Pluto. So Pluto was very infused into that one, and now we're at the last degree of Aquarius, and so we've got them bookended, covering all the degrees of Aquarius. So that's pretty cool. And so yeah, so the Venus moon gate, the third eye chakra, and Venus is still in Aries, and and we'll be moving into uh, Taurus shortly after the gate, but she's at the end degrees of Aries, so she's still on her mission and she still has a purpose. And it's visionary. So if you think about the third eye, it's like, what are we visioning? So similar to Uranus, to Aquarius, to all of that energy. It's like it's so mind-blowing. It's like, wow, this is so set up in such a beautiful way to help us to remember that it's about what we perceive and believe that then if we want to create something new, we can, if we can conceive and believe it through our perception and through our ability to see the bigger picture.
And I think that's such a great point because, right, it's like our beliefs are often these things that get instilled, that stuff happens when we're little and we don't understand what it means and we don't know what to make of it. And so we take it all onto ourselves. And then we just keep looking at the world through this kind of muddy lens, that is our beliefs. And so what a beautiful opportunity, right? We're seeing this layering. I'm always looking for where's the layering of the same kind of message and energies to like wipe those lenses clean and start to separate that fact from fiction, the truth that you were talking about in our last video of where is the truth within this and what do I want to be creating with my perceptions and my visioning and where I want things to go. So I love that.
And at this gate, Venus gate, she's letting go of everything that's in the way of that. So, and some of the things I learned in my priestess work all over many years is when you set an intention, anything that's in the way of that intention comes up to get cleared. And so that's what this process is about. It's like, okay, we may have an intention for a better world and a vision of a more beautiful world, but what's in the way? And so we have that opportunity to clear and let go of, and Saturn's going to help. As it moves into Aries the very next day after the exact Venus Moon conjunction on May 23rd. And so this is the first time Saturn's been in Aries in almost 30 years. And when it went into Aries, I think it's 1997, maybe the last time it went into Aries, it only passed the 0 Aries point once. Now it's going to pass it 3 times, and this is the first time. Then I'll go back into Pisces, back into Aries, and then catch up to Neptune in February of 2026. So we're in this window of how can we craft and create a new world through the vision that is possible for us now as we let go of maybe attachments to old visions that aren't working anymore.
And how Saturn then, like you always say, brings things into form, right? Saturn is that middle world planet, the real world where we're sitting here today, you're listening to this video or watching it, right? How does Saturn help us bring, right, that embodiment, like bring this down onto the earth, these visions, these perceptions, this growth, this transformation, right? What we're releasing so that we have a clearer vision, all of those things. And that Aries Pisces dance now, Saturn's been getting in on it, but really going to be crossing back and forth across those points of like actual on the ground. I always think of like Saturn, like boots on the ground kind of an energy in it. And we talk about Saturn as that contraction, right? And I think the gift, like somehow we've like made Saturn be bad. And it's like that contraction's bad and Jupiter and expansion is good. But that contraction is what, as the walls start to come in, we go, I don't want to do that with my energy anymore. I want to do this with my energy. And that's a gift, right? Every time we clear things out, it's always like a phew. I feel so renewed that I'm putting all my eggs in the basket that I want to be going. And so I really appreciate that that's all starting to really come into form around this gate with all of this visioning happening as well.
Yeah, and to put something into a new form. And so here's the thing I love about Saturn, that I love my perspective on Saturn, is she is not a masculine judgmental god.
Yes.
That
Amen.
yes. We experience Saturn that way because that's what's been conditioned into us, but that's not the essence of Saturn. That's the patriarchal co-opting of that energy. She's mother, she's matter, she's about form, and we can create any form we want, and whatever form we create will be our reality. And that's the opportunity that we have. And so when thinking about Venus being at this gate for visioning, letting go of the things that are in the way of the vision, Saturn going into a new sign and being able to take the action that will help to put that vision into form. It's beautiful. It's just so beautiful.
It is. Oh my gosh. Even if just alone we just started to vision and see Saturn as the mother matter, right? That would be enough for me at this gate.
Exactly. And then it's not like there's nothing you can really do that's wrong. That's been the conditioning of our culture, and that we feel like we have to do the right thing, or we need to do there's ways that we think that we judge ourselves. But Saturn's not judgmental. It's only because we think Saturn's judgmental that Saturn has felt judgmental. So we let go of those judgments, and then we have a whole different world.
Exactly. Oh my God. It's like there's your beliefs and the perception and what do you want to put your attention on and all of that. So love
Yeah.
it. All
Yay.
right.
So I
Anything else? I
we
think
got it covered, I think. We've
all
got it.
right. Well, wishing you a blessed Venus Fridays.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.